you probably clicked on this video because you aren't sure if you should make an alternate account in Genshin Impact. Out of the gate, I want to clarify that the decision ultimately depends on you and what you want to get out of the account. In other words, I'm not going to persuade you into creating an alternate account, nor will I try to persuade you into not making one. That said, I put together a list of considerations I think would be a good idea to take into account. If there was something that you feel would be important to add and I just don't touch on it, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section and let the other viewers and I know. Before we begin, I just want to briefly touch on why anybody would want to make an alternative account in Genshin Impact. Now, if you really don't care about this portion and just want to jump into the list of considerations that I briefly mentioned earlier, just go to the timestamp that I put on the screen and just go from there. Otherwise, keep watching. One reason why somebody may want to create a new account is to do a challenge run in the game. So for example, in my particular case, I made a new account to do a Genshin Nuzlocke. Basically, it's like the Genshin Impact equivalent to a Pokemon Nuzlocke, which I'm not going to go into because that's not the point of the video. Another type of challenge run could be like only free-to-play characters or just trying to limit themselves on what items, like weapons and characters they can use. Somebody may also want to create a new account to do some re-rolling. Now, the person re-rolling would bargain with the gacha gods in exchange for some wasted email addresses. I'm not going to touch this one very much because honestly I think it's lame as fuck, and if you disagree with me, then dislike the video. It can be our little secret. Maybe someone wants to make a new account to do some free-to-play action or they want to spend some money on it. So for example, on the main account, if you had spent some money on it, so if you're a light spender or if you're just a complete whale and you wanted to give the free-to-play experience a shot, maybe you'll make a new account in that way. Or maybe the reverse is true. Maybe on your main account, you're completely free-to-play and you want to spend some money a little bit, but you don't want to taint your main account with the whale's curse. So you just make a new one to spend money on. Another possible reason is just maybe you just wanted to start over for shits and giggles. That's all there is to it. I know it took a minute to get to the main point of the video, but I felt it was necessary to address why somebody would want to create an alternative account in Genshin Impact before actually going into the list of my suggested considerations. Now that we are at that point though, let's get into the meat and potatoes of it. In my personal opinion, I think there's something satisfying about taking the experience you learned from the first time you play a game and applying it to a second playthrough, and that's exactly the same case in Genshin Impact for me. I like to call this the time travel effect. With the power of the time travel effect, I get the opportunity to rectify any mistakes I made the first time around from the start, like for example, not spending resin as early as I could have, trying not to spend my XP books on every goddamn character you get, particularly the purple books, and not leveling up your weapons and talents as early as you probably could have. Now, if you clicked on this video, I would assume that you know that Genshin Impact is a gacha game, and I would assume that you have a good idea on how gacha games work. Knowing that, this second account could give you an opportunity to play as characters that you probably would have not used on your main account. I mean, sure, you'll still have the default characters like the Traveler, Amber, Lisa, Kaya, and all the other characters that everyone and their mother would probably have, but I'm more talking about the characters that you would try to get on your limited banner, and either you may have not have managed to get them on your main account, or possibly that you just decided not to fill them for one reason or another. Maybe you just didn't have the resources for them, or maybe you were just trying to avoid them like the plague because you have a hate boner for them. So an example of this from my own personal experience is with the character Yanfei. Now, on my main account, I did manage to get Yanfei, but the thing is, I ended up not focusing any resources to build her because I was too busy building other characters. However, on my alternative account, she has become one of my main, if not the main, character that I use. And that's mostly because I've been wanting to use her for a while, so I decided to use my alternative account as my chance to use her actively as opposed to being on my main account when I could be building other characters. Now, personally, I don't think this next thing would be the most important thing to consider, but if you really want to hit the next hot taste of dopamine or despair from pulling wishes, I suppose having an alternative account might not be the worst thing you can do. Unless you are a whale, then you're probably just better off spending money. Unless your alternative accounts for free to play, but that's not the, that's not the point here. Anywho, something that would not change from your main account to your alternative account would be the despair to dopamine ratio you'll be provided from pulling these wishes. Now, the fate of your ratio will determine on the two dual archons of Gacha, MiHoYo and RNGesus. Now, the question is, will they decide to give you the 5-star that you could not attain on your main account? Or will you still get cut by Chi-Chi and possibly Kaching? One inevitability that you will run into when you make an alternative account is the need to re-explore everything. So that means you have to find out the chests again, you have to collect all the oculi again, and you'll have to rediscover all the waypoints. For better or for worse, you will be traveling a lot more on foot as opposed to using the convenience of waypoints. In addition, you will be climbing, gliding, and swimming with your baby-ass stamina, at least from the start. Now, if you're the type of person who is willing to replay Breath of the Wild or Skyrim multiple times, I'm pretty sure you can handle this without much issue. This next consideration probably is a more important one, and that would be time management. See, depending on how much time you have or want to dedicate to Genshin Impact, this could be a good or bad thing. Now, do you want to put all of your time into the alternate account, or do you want to balance things out between that and the main account? Regardless of what you choose, just know that you do have a free 10 seconds to allocate to slapping your cock on the like button and subscribing to my YouTube channel if you so desire. Speaking of time, another thing you want to think about is probably the grind. Regardless if you do plan to focus solely on the alt account or both accounts, the grind would still be very real. You might experience the daily double. Now let me give you a rundown of the concept of daily double. As an example, if you're focusing on both the main and the alternative accounts, and you're trying to put a lot of focus into both of them, you could potentially complete up to 8 commissions a day, and you may also spend twice as long trying to complete events, as well as just doing general grinding stuff, like trying to collect materials and whatnot. Once again, this assumes that you opt to focus on both a main and an alternate account. If you opt to only focus on the alternative account, then the grind could feel like a slog because you're still trying to build up all the mats again, as opposed to having a large collection that you probably already had from your main account. I'm just making assumptions here. Now, if you have made it to this point in the video without skipping any of the considerations I've listed, here is a reminder to add anything into the comments that may help, someone decide if they want to make an alternative account or not. Hell, you can even make some counterpoints to anything that I mentioned. It's really your call. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully now you'll have a better idea on whether or not you want to make an alternative account in Genshin Impact. I'm Continuous Attack, and I am gonna slide out of this bitch.